right, so that's the last one I'm going to read. Let's get into the first subject, which is the CCS Women's League. So for those of you that are not aware, you're probably going to ask, what is CCS? CCS stands for the Cyber Athlete Championship Series. It's where I started. It's an amateur league. It was primarily based in North America. They now have an EU version as well. It's a great training ground and proving ground for amateur talent. I think that supporting our tier 2 and tier 3 scenes are extremely important, and that because of this, you basically want to make sure that organizations like CCS continue. They are largely volunteer ran, which means that they don't make any money. I don't know CCS's financials. I don't know if they make money. I mean, they have sponsors. They put out a significant prize pool. I'd imagine they have funding in some capacity. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's not like they're doing it as a job. A lot of these people are working in other industries or have other gainful employment, and this is just a side project for them. So CCS is where I started. I cast alongside Talon and Fluffy, for those of you that recall. In the very first season, it's maiden voyage, so to speak. We were getting like 80 to 100 viewers. That was it. Now they're getting hundreds to thousands of viewers. They have significantly increased production quality. The graphics are much better. The caliber of play is much better. They draw a lot of interest from all over the community, and they do excellent work. And they expanded to EU a couple seasons back, and they announced a couple weeks ago that they were going to be doing a CCS Women's League, which of course was without any controversy whatsoever, because of course the internet is not a sexist place. Oh, sorry, I read that backwards. My bad. Hold on. Let me say that again. A lot of smooth brains appeared out of the woodwork to be very critical of something that is objectively good. So, a couple things that I want to focus on, because I'm aware that a lot of you will probably hold differing opinions on this. Given the backlash that went out on Twitter, I suspect that many of you here will not agree with me on this topic, and that's fine. As long as you can control yourself, then you'll remain in chat. Don't be one of those fucking dickheads who like goes off on like some sexist or racist tangent and then gets banned, and then goes around on Twitter and onto other Twitch channels being like, Interro banned me because he doesn't agree with my politics. Hey, shithead, you're being racist garbage. It's not about your politics. You're a horrible person. You don't deserve to be in my chat. Bye-bye. See, totally different viewpoints here. But anyway, there's going to be people who are going to disagree with this, and that's okay. I ask of you that you try and see my perspective of it as I have seen yours. And even if you don't agree, you at least try to entertain some of the arguments that I'm going to present in hopes of seeing maybe some validity in them. Because, I don't know, I feel like we come from very different perspectives on this. And a lot of the reactions I saw on the CCS Twitter were from like 14 and 15-year-olds. It's so easy because they put their age in their Twitter handle. 15 years old. PS4 gunner, UK pride, and then it's like a flag, like the Union Jack, and it's just like tremendous. I will sure to take cues on gender equality from a 15-year-old. Thank you, I appreciate that. So, I'm trying to figure out where to start with this. So basically, CCS have been working alongside Jess, the former coach of Penta, who announced that she's no longer with the team, to basically put on a CCS Women's League. And I think it's pretty cool. There are an awful lot of female streamers and female players in the Rainbow Six ecosystem, not just anonymous, but also very prominent. You know, anyone from Autumn May to Wizard Whistle to Goddess to Todriel to Kate, who's in here right now. There's no shortage of like female talent. Then you've got like Chai, you've got like Kai Pistols. I'm trying to think of everybody who's been announced on all the different teams, like Saslin, Jessica, Rachel Boo. There's a lot of them. Well, Lexi's playing, Fuya's playing, etc. And I think it's super cool that we have an opportunity to possibly get female casters to cast a league that's played for by women. Now, here's what kind of makes me laugh. The number one comment that I saw after the CCS Women's League was announced was, why do we need a women's league? Why is there no men's league? First thing, of the people who have played in Pro League, it is 99.999% male. Of the amateur scene right now in both North America and EU, To the best of my knowledge, it is 100% male. These leagues are already unisex. So when you come out and say, well, where's the men's only league? They basically already are. There's no hard admission where it's like, no, you're a woman, you can't play. That doesn't exist. But clearly, there are already barriers to a unisex league because none of the leagues that we've seen so far have barred women from competing. And yet they still don't compete. So when you turn around and you say, well, where's the men's only league? They basically all of them are already men's only leagues. Are women allowed to play? Yes. Do they? No. So if you look at the question, how do we get more women to compete? Which I believe is the question that most people ask before they create a women's only league, circuit, tourney, event, etc. How do we get more women to compete? All these brainiacs come to Twitter, descend on Twitter, and say, well, these leagues are already unisex. I'd love to see women compete against men and competing with men. All right, great. That's currently the system we have right now, and they don't. So the question is, how do we get more women involved? And a lot of them, their answer is, well, do nothing. The leagues are already unisex. Fucking bravo. Bravo. Just do nothing. Excellent. Great job. We're done here. Thanks, everybody. You can all go home. And it floors me. It honestly floors me because I don't think that these people like actually think it through. Like, I don't think they actually think about like where they're coming from when they say just obviously moronic statements like that. Like, women don't compete in esports to the same level that men do. It's not even close. It's not even close. There have been 2 female Pro League players in the history of Pro League, Luna and Goddess. And Goddess got relegated, and Luna very recently got picked up. Prior to 2 seasons ago, there had never been a female that had actually competed at a professional level in any real capacity. So the question that is asked is, how do we get more women involved? Do nothing is not an answer, because clearly it's not working. So when you turn around and you say, well, where are the men's only leagues? These leagues might as well be men only leagues because they're obviously not doing anything to court female players. They're obviously not doing anything to court female coaches or to cultivate female talent. So then your next step, in my mind, your next step is, why are women not playing? Because if your goal, which is what I believe most of these events are for, is how can we get more women to play? The first step to that, in my opinion, is ask the question, why aren't they? To which I think the answer is quite obvious. And most women here will tell you it's toxicity. You don't need to be on the internet for more than 10 seconds to see how gendered insults are different for women than for men. And if you're one of those people who love to come out and say this line, oh, it's nothing to do with sexism, everybody gets harassed online, then leave. Leave my chat right now. If you believe that it's equal on both sides, there is no middle ground that you and I are going to achieve. Because if you have such a simplistic and idiotic and ignorant view of the internet, that you truthfully believe that men receive the same amount of hate for being a man as women receive for being a woman, then there is no level that we can stand on that is even close to one another. Either you are blind, you are dumb, or you are one of those sexist pieces of shit who don't realize how you are shaping the internet for the worse for women on the internet. Okay? I just want to get that one out of the way. If you say men get it just as bad as women on the internet, maybe they do, but not for the same reasons. And I would even argue that they don't get it as bad, but let's just say, for argument's sake here, we're going to do the Ben Shapiro, let's say, and then you just throw out a gross hypothetical that like nobody can argue against. It's the Ben Shapiro way. But you just throw out, let's say that both men and women receive the same amount of harassment online. There's a big difference as to what that harassment is. Right? When was the last time you as a man had to sit there and listen to another man or a woman on the internet make fun of you for being a man? How many times did you get told to go back to wherever gendered location? When was the last time that you got called a very specific gendered word? Probably never. Because I can tell you, I'm older than probably every single person here that's in the chat. I'm almost 30 years old. And I can tell you right now, in my entire time on the internet, the amount of times that I have been made fun of for being a man, that I've been told to go back to the office or, you know, go fix a car or whatever alternative gendered insult they can be thrown at me is zero. Zero. Because it doesn't happen that way. I might get harassed just like a lot of other people on the internet, men and women, but it's completely different harassment. When a woman opens her mouth and the first thing you hear is some fucking neckbeard living in his mother's basement, breathing out of his mouth in between huffing the Cheetos dust out of the bottom of the bag, goes, go back to the kitchen. You know how many times I've heard that as a man in some kind of magical gendered men terminology? Zero. Like people just don't, I guess, get it, or either you're blind to it, or maybe you don't talk to women, so you don't know what they go through. Talk to any female pro, talk to any female streamer, and ask when was the last time that they got harassed for just simply being a woman. And they will probably give you an answer that happened sometimes in the last 24 hours. And when was the last time you as a man received an insult because you were a man? Probably never. Because I've actually never seen one. I have never actually seen somebody insult a male gamer making a joke about their gender. There are barriers that exist that prevent women from competing. Talk to any female streamer, talk to any female amateur competitor, talk to any female professional competitor, and they will tell you that sexism, harassment, deeply ingrained misogyny, all of these things have not just happened in random games, but also within their teams. You can talk to Goddess yourself. Ask her about certain teams she's been on and how sexist her own teammates have been. Because I've heard her talk about it before. Talk to female players who have been on teams with other guys who don't understand the way their words work or the way that their harassment is tailored towards her because she's a woman and not just because she's a gamer. There are barriers in place that prevent women from gaining the same notoriety within esports. And then this is the follow-up that I love here. The follow-up is that people turn around and they say, well, it's not like traditional sports. Like, obviously, women aren't as strong as men. So it makes sense that they have different leagues at a professional level. Okay. And then they turn around and they go, but with esports, it's different. Everybody's on the same footing. So if women are just as talented as men at esports, let's take this logic and let's run with it. If you're coming into this saying women are just as talented and just as capable as men at esports, which is why you don't believe a separate women's division should exist, then why is the league not 50% women? Why is the league not 25% women? If you honestly believe that women are just as good as men and they can compete at the same level, then do you not maybe think that based on skill alone, there should be more than 2 female pros? If there's an army of women out there right now that are sitting, in the top 500 and they're just as good as men, then why are they not playing in Pro League? Does this occur to these people? Like, I don't get it. Like, does it not occur to these people that if that's true, there would be more women right now in Pro League? But there isn't. There are lots of talented female players, but they're not playing in Pro League. Why do you think that is? Might it occur to you that there are reasons that keep women from reaching their full potential if they truly are capable, which I believe they are? if they truly are capable of being the best in the world at video games, why are they not playing at the top level? You think they're lazy and they just don't achieve their full potential? Think they don't try hard enough? Or do you think maybe there are steps in place or hurdles in place that prevent them from getting there? Like, I don't understand. Every single argument that gets thrown out by these people who make it seem like, you know, a women's only esports league is somehow like sexist. And people keep using the word segregation, which is like, do you understand like the deeper meanings of the word segregation? Stop using that word. Like, I don't get it. There are barriers in place. The way that people react when they hear a woman speak in a video game is appalling. The way that people talk about female players on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, Reddit, Discord, etc. is appalling. The way that teammates handle having a woman on their team is appalling. The way that people react when they see what appears to be a female name in the game itself is appalling. And then people don't, I guess, have like the intellectual like curiosity to turn around and be like, why does this happen? You know? And then when people say that the CCS Women's League is sexist, it makes me want to grab my head and pull my brain out of my skull forcefully and slam it down on the desk until it's a pile of mush. It's not sexist to create a league that is specifically designed to avoid the same pitfalls that every woman has to deal with in the leagues that already exist. You see what happens to Twitch chat when Goddess plays. You see what happens in female streamers' chats, in their own chats, when they're trying to play. And Munition, who, to the best of my knowledge, only wears crew necks. For those of you that don't know what a crew neck is, it's this. See, this is a V-neck, okay? This is a crew neck. Anne wears t-shirts and crew necks, and people still call her a titty streamer. How fucking stupid do you need to be? And if you're not stupid, because I don't believe a lot of these people are stupid. I mean, to a certain extent, they're stupid, but they're smart enough to know what they're doing. It's deliberate. It's sexist garbage. You can talk to any of the women in this chat right here and ask them about their own experiences dealing with people in game. Boys, kids, men, even other women. And they will tell you their stories. I have literally heard countless stories. I used to be on a team with a female player, and the things that the other teams in the same league would say about her was horrific. And people like to turn around and say, well, you know, nobody's toxic in the amateur scene. It's just people in ranked. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Because even if you ignore ranked, you're still going to be playing on a team where there's Twitch chat. And Twitch chat, when it comes to esports, is usually a collection of 12-year-old social cripples. Or socially crippled basement dwellers, as we call them. The idea behind this CCS Women's League is, well, I mean, it's more than one. There's more than one idea or reason behind it. Number one, it's to celebrate and promote women that might not necessarily be inclined or interested to compete in amateur esports. It gives them an area to play where they are free of toxicity and negativity that are stemming from sexism from their own teammates. I don't doubt that on these teams, of which will be entirely women, there will be toxicity among players. It's inescapable. But the difference is that it's not going to be aimed at them because of their gender. It's going to be aimed at them for a variety of different reasons. It could be the way that they play. It could be their attitude. It could be because maybe they just don't like each other. Who knows? The idea is to give an opportunity that wouldn't necessarily be there. And if you take a look at the sheer number of people who have signed up, and when I say people, I mean women. The sheer number of women who have signed up for the CCS Women's League is huge. The EU side of things was closed within a day. I think it was Jess who tweeted, she's like, we might need to open up more spots because there's such a huge interest for women to play with other women. You have orgs that are actually stepping in, or at least teams that are stepping in. T3H wants to field a team. Sinister just announced an all-women's team. that are deliberately picking up female rosters to compete in this event, or, well, rather, league. Jess is going to be casting it, and I have no doubt that it will likely entice other women to try their hand at casting as well. The Brazilian only, or the female only league in Brazil had 2 female casters. It had a variety of different teams picking up female only rosters, and it was great for representation. Viewership was very high, and it was very well received among the larger portion of their community. Of course, there's always going to be doubters. Of course, there's always going to be naysayers. There always will be. And for the people who are turning around and saying, well, we shouldn't have a CCS only women's only league because the Twitch chat's going to be super toxic. Last I checked, there are things called moderators and there are things called permabans. CCS chat does not move fast enough for things to slip through the cracks. Dumbasses will be permabanned. And for a lot of people, it might actually normalize the idea of women competing. Because right now, there's like this gut, visceral reaction whenever somebody sees Goddess playing to just shout, "Grill!" in Twitch chat and act like a complete and utter fucking moron. The more commonplace it becomes, the more people are familiarized with this concept of not only having one gender dominate esports, the easier it becomes in the future. This is not a female pro league. This is not designed to compete against pro league, just as regular CCS is not designed to compete against pro league or even challenger league. This is a very firmly tier 3 scene. And this league is primarily for fun. It gives visibility and representation and a new experience to dozens of women who might not necessarily get involved. And some of them might even get that itch that they need to scratch by getting onto another team, which happens to be co-ed. Or maybe they don't, and maybe this is it. But that doesn't matter. There are multiple ways that this league can better not just esports, but the experience that women have in the community in terms of amateur competition and in terms of cultivating talent and interest. When you turn around and you say, why don't women just compete in leagues right now? They're already unisex. You're failing to understand why they don't. If you can break down the barriers as to why they don't, then maybe, just maybe, in the future, we won't need women's only leagues. Because those barriers and those hurdles that prevent them from competing at a higher level or competing with the boys, as a lot of people put on Twitter, those barriers will be smaller and easier to get over. Or they might even be gone. But if you're one of those people that's shitting on the CCS Women's League, all you're doing is perpetuating that cycle of harassment and abuse that is the reason behind why that league exists. If you really and truly want women to be more involved in esports, if you really and truly want to do away with, separate gendered leagues, assess your own behavior. Are you sexist on the internet? Do you make jokes about women and that come from a place of sexism? Have you challenged your own misogyny? Have you ever been curious about the language you use and the views you hold of women in society versus men in society? When you're in a game and there's some sexist asshat ridiculing and harassing a woman, do you stand up for her? Or do you speak out against that person doing that? You don't need to take her agency away, but if there's a dickbag that's in the game and they're cracking women jokes and they think they're the life of the party and you're laughing at them, you are condoning that behavior because you are giving them positive feedback. Are you telling them to be quiet? Are you standing up for somebody as you would in any other circumstance when you see somebody being bullied? Don't be complicit in that kind of harassment. There's a lot of things that we can do, you and I, all of you, to make it so that the harassment and the sexism and all of the abuse that women have to deal with that are specifically directed at women. It's not just toxicity as a whole, because you can do a lot about that as well. There's a lot that we can do in our day-to-day when we are in a casual game or whether we are in a ranked game. It's not white knighting to tell somebody who's being a moron that they're being a moron. It's not called being a white knight. It's called being correct. And it's called standing up for somebody who could possibly use it without taking away their agency. And I don't understand why there's such a hullabaloo about this. I think it's going to be a fun league. I would love to cast a game or two if there's an opportunity to do so. I'm excited to see a ton of my friends actually compete. They'll be competing for the first time, most of them, in any kind of setting. And that wouldn't have happened. They wouldn't have gotten this experience if it wasn't for this all-women's league. And they're so pumped. So maybe instead of being a troglodyte and lashing out about something that you don't really have a fully formed argument on, maybe take a step back and assess why. Why are women not competing? And how can we help them so that they are? Do they need help? If so, how can we help them? They have agency. They make their own decisions. But at the end of the day, they still have obstacles that they have to get over, just like you and I do, but they're different obstacles. Maybe if you help, speak out and stand up for people who are being harassed and attacked. At this point, it doesn't even matter about gender. You should be doing that, period. If there's somebody in your game who has a lisp and somebody else in the game starts making jokes about them, tell that person to shut the fuck up. So you stand up for the person that has the lisp. If there's somebody who has an accent and they start getting made fun of by somebody else in the game, tell that person who's making fun of them to shut the fuck up. At this point, it's not even just about gender. At this point, it's just about don't be a silent bystander. Don't be complicit in what's happening. The CCS Women's League is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think that the people that are shouting it down have a pretty large misunderstanding of what it is and why it's being created. And even if you disagree with me, fair enough. At this point, I don't think there's anything I can do to change your mind. Watch it. Watch it and see the enjoyment that comes from a wide variety of viewers, that come from the women themselves competing, that come from the teams, that come from the people organizing it. Because there's a lot of people really stoked about this. And the reaction was unsurprising, but at the same time, it was still disheartening. Don't knock it before you watch it. Go in there expecting to see the same level of gameplay as you would see in any other amateur league. Go in there with reasonable expectations. If you're going in there and you're expecting them to play like pro league players, then you're an idiot. Because no amateur talent, regardless of gender, are going to play like pro league players. So if you're going in there and you're like, obviously these people aren't pro. No, dipshit, they're not. It's a fun amateur league. Do you go into CCS regularly and go, these guys aren't pro? Probably not. If you do, then you're just a dumbass and you don't know how amateur talent works. It's not like you go to a fucking like, it's not like you go to like an 18-year-old kid's like pickup game at a local like, I don't know, soccer field, and you're like, these guys are never going to make it to the World Cup. No shit. That's not the purpose. Understand what the purpose is. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Go in with an open mind. Go in with an open mind. You might be surprised. And don't be afraid to change your mind either. Goddess was originally opposed to female-only leagues. Back when Brazil announced that there was going to be a female-only league, she was one of the most vocal critics of it. A lot of her arguments were, I made it, so should they. Why do we need to separate women from men? Why do they need a safe space? And in the span of 8 months, she has completely turned it around because she has seen firsthand how women get treated inside of Pro League. She has seen the effect that her visibility and presence in Pro League have inspired or has inspired and has affected other women to want to compete at that same level. And I had a conversation with her because not only is she getting active in the CCS Women's Only League, she created a Discord for female-only players, and she even openly said, if you're a man, you're getting banned from this Discord. It's for women only. And if we can prove that you're a man, see you later, you're getting banned. No men allowed. She did a complete 180. And when I talked to her, she said that her own experiences shaped her changing of her mind. The amount of messages that she gets from women who say, you inspire me, I want to play. The amount of responses and tweets that she gets, and the comments that she gets on her stream and in Twitch chat saying that they look up to her and that she's a role model, there's a good opportunity that out of the dozens of women that are competing in this CCS all women's league, that one or two of them are going to be able to get into the mainstream just as Goddess did and have young girls look up to them as well. And then it'll have been all worth it. And then all these little kids that are crying on Twitter about the fact that there's another league that doesn't cater to them, well, too fucking bad. It's not about you.